podcast where everyone is welcome at the table, but of course, as always, no one knows whose turn it is. This is Chris.
Hey, and this is Anthony.
And this is episode 550, our legacy in 5 games, 5 designers, and 0 regrets. Mostly. We like to thank all of our Patreon backers for helping us bring you 550 episodes, people.
Woo! We got a 0 at the end.
We did a thing again.
Yeah. It's funny how it changes though. Like it's exciting anytime we reach like one of the 50s, but like you get like 250 or 350 and you're like, oh, that's like a big number. Like 550, you're just like, that's like 500 plus tax. Like,
it's true. Yeah, it's a damn good round number. The fives are good. The 10s are always good, but the 5s are good too.
I dig it. I think it's a cool number.
Don't sleep on the 5s.
I'm not sleeping on the 5s. So
the 5s are good.
Yeah, we've got my daughter's favorite thing in the world coming up. A nice palindrome with 555.
Ooh,
yeah,
very nice.
She loves the triples.
Yes, I see that.
And a couple more years, and we can hit a very dangerous number.
Yeah, so we are here on our 550 episode. It's a special episode. Typically, when we hit these big round numbers, Anthony, we typically do a top 100 or top 200, top 300, top 400, top 500, or give or take. For this episode, we want to take you for probably the most important games, our legacy in 5 games. So BGA has been around for 12 plus years now at this point. We've done a lot of different things together, and there are certainly a lot of different games that have added to, crafted, built us up. I mean, generally, when we think about the BGA lore, a lot of it obviously comes down to the games that we play at the table with our friends. And we want to talk about those kind of key factor games and those amazing designers / publishers that were very instrumental in the podcast. And then to wrap it up with a little fun is our 0 regrets, because we've been doing this for a very long time and we've had some wacky adventures along the way. And there are at least 5 that really come to mind when we think of, hey, we did that thing and that thing became a thing. So therefore it's a thing on the podcast now. So if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, either all 550 episodes, or even if this is your very first episode, you're going to get some great games, great designers / publishers, and some great little stories along the way. So that's going to be our episode. It is our super duper feature for this super 550.
Yeah, big number, round number. So it's funny. I logged in, I was looking at the numbers. I'm like, oh, that's clever. Oh, that's very clever. I love that.
Aw, yeah. There you go.
So no, it'll be fun. And I think the thing about doing the podcast for so many years, 12 and counting, is there's a lot of these moments. So like, we have 5 games that define the podcast history. I could make a list of 50. I could make a list of 100. Like you asked me before we got on, like, oh, do you want to add anything or change anything? I'm like, no, these are all good, but I do have like a dozen other games in my mind that I could talk about. But that's the fun part, right? So it's just, like having so many things to kind of touch on. Mm-hmm. Maybe next time we do like a top 50, but in 2 years. But I think this will be fun just to kind of go through it and really focus in, especially like I feel like some of these moments are in the same ballpark of years, when everything kind of coalesced. So they are very formative. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, we have a lot of honorable mentions, which we may or may not get to, because again, some of these games, designers, publishers, and experiences are so, developmentally based in the BGA DNA. And as you said, Anthony, there's so many other ones too, but they're also very much very integral to the gaming industry as well, because so many of those different things out there, like the vibrations out there in the world, how those things happened. And again, just endless numbers of things we probably could talk. Maybe that's episode 600.
Yeah.
When it gets to episodes, we'll do the top 60 things.
Yeah. Or this is a new top 100 list. Our top 100 moments or our top 100 games.
Yeah,
plays,
I mean, this is going to be kind of like our greatest like the ones with the strongest magnetic gravitational kind of appeal, and then we'll kind of list all the other stuff.
Yeah, like I like this. I mean, we don't want to pat ourselves in the back too much, although it is 550, so we're allowed to.
550 times.
Yeah, exactly. But this, it feels like an oral history of sorts.
It
right?
is,
like
yeah.
let's, we do reflect a lot, and I think it's a
We
good
do.
thing to do. I think it's fun to do, but also it's good to do, to have that conversation so you can go forward. But the thing I love about oral history, just as a genre, which is, a podcast is very close to just being that anyways, is that you're forced to be reflective about things that you've already talked about, right? These are all
Sure.
things we've already talked about so much. That's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting a little metacognitive here and talking about why did we talk about them so much? And I think that's just as important as the content of the original conversation.
Sure. And how over the years, like you said, 12 plus years, how these things were something or someone that came into the BGA podcast sphere of influence. And then at the moment, we didn't know how defining it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been like you talked about the oral history tradition here. I think that's what's been amazing about this podcast is that if you go back and you listen to the back catalog, there's different moments in time, and we're different, and the industry is different, and our experiences are different. And it's almost like, oh, they're meeting so-and-so for the very first time, or they're playing this game for the very first time. It's going to change everything. Right? Like, oh, it's their first legacy game.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea what they're getting involved into. Or they started to collect this. They are going to hate collecting that later.
Right.
Or those companies that have disappeared, they're no longer with us, that, were so integral to our, start of our existence. Or even like the very first game that we got a review copy and did a review for. So, I mean, again, there's just so many different experiences there and so many valuable games. And again, why they're valuable now versus then they may not have been seemingly as valuable. And I guess, and also from an industry point of view too, if you're new to the industry or you're an old timer like us in the industry, there were signs, I guess, back then that we can kind of reflect upon today that also could be very educational for the future. But I think more importantly than anything else is that the conversation we're having here, you and I, Anthony, are not it's not the conversation we're having alone.
Right.
It's the conversation with everyone, all of you out there that are listening right now. It becomes this kind of parasocial third space that whatever you're doing, you're at the gym, you're in the car, you're playing a game, whatever kind of thing you're doing right now, you're at the table with us. So whomever you are, wherever you are, and whatever you're doing, and no matter the time or place in the universe, maybe it's 1,000 years from now, who knows?
Right.
Maybe this is a thing, right? This is a thing in a time and a share that we can share with you in a space. So
yeah, 100%.
This is a lot of fun. So we wanted to go through thinking about the podcast on 550 and thinking about our legacy and how these different things kind of play part. But really, as I was just mentioning, it's you out there who are listening that make this so integral to what we're doing. So I think before we get into the 550 or the 550, we have to mention everyone is listening, because certainly we would not be here without you. Everyone out there are Patreon backers who financially support us so we can do the podcast. If you have not been to patreon.com/BGA, please do check it out. There's a lot of great additional content that we've done for so many years that's out there. And it'd be wonderful to either join us or actually support us financially. If you can't, not the end of the world. But again, if you can do a little bit, it really takes us, takes us far as what we could do, because it turns out that a lot of this podcast stuff is very expensive. So help us out. And again, it allows us to do better presentations for the podcast and bring more people to the table. And then for everybody else out there who listens, who posts about us on social media, who just listen to the episode, who do reviews wherever you're listening, who subscribe on YouTube. Again, all of those things, no matter how big, no matter how small, telling people about the podcast makes a big difference. And thank you all so very much. 550 episodes would not have happened without literally each and every one of you out there. With that said, Anthony, let's get on to the episode. So starting off with our legacy, we're going to start off with the first 5 of our 550. The 5 games that define the podcast legacy, history, lore, story, and such.
and such.
and such.
And ...
Dot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, onward and onward and
Well,
forward.
you're the guy with the MFA. There's a lot of things, right? This could be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We could take this in a million different directions.
I know.
Yeah.
Are we the protagonist or antagonist? Are we the main character? Like, what's happening? Go ahead. Go.
All of the above.
Yes, done. Did it.
Yeah, woo! That's my favorite answer when my student asks a question like, hey, do I do it this way or this way? Or could it be this way? And I'm like, all of them. And they're like, no, I hate you. You're the worst teacher. And I'm like, ha, have fun.
That'll teach you for being smart.
Yeah, how dare you ask questions that are fun to answer. All right, so let's kick it off with the very first game that we played together. Oh, going back.
That's adorable.
Adorable. Revolution. Steve
But an exclamation point.
Exclamation point. I'm sorry. I said it with the downward tilt.
You did.
Revolution!
See, man, we've been podcasting for so long at this point. Come on, man.
I'm tired.
He's tired. He is tired. I can vouch for that.
Revolution, 2009, Steve Jackson, the very first game we played with Drew. If we go back to early episodes of the podcast, the episodes.
And maybe even our friend Elizabeth, if you remember Elizabeth.
Absolutely, yeah.
That was our 4 players, yeah.
That was back at Myriad Games, and this was back in the day when I didn't know what hobby games were. I saw a post about a game meetup, and in my head, I was thinking Scrabble. I'd been trying to socialize because my son had reached an age where I could leave the house and not feel terrible about leaving my wife alone with a toddler. And I had tried going back to Magic that I had played in college and high school, and I was like, this is terrible, and I hate this. And I was like, hey, game night. And I wandered in, and I was like, oh, these look way more complicated than I was expecting. And the first one I sat down to play was Revolution, which is a really weird game to play for the first time with people who do not know, because it's kind of mean. And
it can
be. Yeah, it can be very mean. And also, like, just not being able to, like, read each other's ticks because you have no idea, like, what other people are doing. But it was great.
Yeah, it was a really fun experience. I had joined the game group prior to that store opening, and there was people brought games in. There was a small game library, and Revolution by Philip DeBerry, who we've talked to since, became part of the podcast for a minute. Was a really interesting game because it's an area control game, but as Anthony was saying, it's challenging because it's blind bidding.
Yeah.
So you have 3 different things that kind of come into play. You have gold, you have blackmail, you have force, and your little player board that's behind a screen, you play those different tokens in different areas based on what will work to influence that particular area. So maybe you have a lot of gold on the printer, but Anthony has blackmail and such and so forth. So you have to see what trumps what, how much of a certain thing does a thing, and then you're able to put area control cubes into that particular area. And then eventually you gain control, you gain benefits, you gain points. It's a Euro game. So it's a fun game. I love this game. I own this game. I own its expansions. The expansions make the game so much better. And like I said, I met Anthony playing this game, and Elizabeth and Drew, and we had a really great time. And it was a good group to start off with because everyone's very passionate about that game, but nobody is like mad when it comes to the blind bidding.
Right. Yeah. It was very lucky. Like there's a lot of people at that store in that game group that I could have played this game with for the first time. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm not coming back. So
exactly. He lucked out there, people. Trust me.
Yeah. It could have been real bad. Well, this podcast wouldn't exist. So
yes. There you go. See?
Yeah. This is also the game that we received like 16 copies of from the publisher, right?
Yes, we did so once we started the podcast, which we really wanted the podcast to be there to support the friendly local game store, Myriad Games, that we were supporting, because they had just opened up, and podcasting was still relatively new when it came to tabletop games. Like, there was only probably about maybe a dozen different podcasts tops.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, if we do a podcast, we'll bring more people to the game store and to the game table, and we could introduce gaming into a lot of other people. This is long before YouTube became like a massive hit for tabletop gaming, and this is long before crowdfunding. So we decided one of the first things we wanted to do with the podcast and with the little group of people we had is do charity events. So one of the big charity events that was out there was being able to do a 25-hour gameplay session. And that was something that was like really hip at the time. And it was one of those things that, it was mainly based around video games.
Yeah.
And the money that we would raise would go to the Children's Miracle Network of hospitals out there. So it was going to a very good cause too. And do you remember what happened during the 24? Actually, it was supposed to be 24 hours.
But they scheduled it for the weekend of daylight savings time. So
Yes.
it was 25 hours, which was great.
And they did not care. So
Did not care. I mean, we could have done whatever amount of time we wanted, but we were like, no, we're doing 24 hours, which means 25.
Yes. And this was Extra Life, which is a very big charity video game board. They've become more board game related, but their 24-hour quote unquote game marathon was a very big thing. And we were like, we're going to do the big thing and raise money for kids in the hospital. And then that was
we raised a lot of money. We did really good.
We did.
And it was crazy too, because we'd only been doing the podcast for, at that point, like 2.5 months, 3 months, if that. And we got so many donations from so many different companies, including 4 cases of Revolution. So
from Steve Jackson Games, which we were very appreciative for. And it really made the game night go really well. You were on TV.
I was, interviewed by New York One. That was a lot of fun. I never actually saw that clip. They don't have them all online, and it was like, man.
Yeah, a lot of people came. A lot of gaming was had. It was very hard to game for 25 hours straight, surprisingly.
Oh my gosh.
3 a.m.
was rough.
People got very cranky.
Yeah.
It was the wrong time for me to give up caffeine.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I was chewing ice to stay awake, and people's cognitive ability waned pretty heavily.
The last 2 hours were rough.
I mean, we were there until the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. We even had a buffet. Remember, we actually had food brought in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a lot of fun. We had the silent auction. We had the raffles. We had like all the things.
It was a good time.
People were very generous too, and it was a lot of fun. We've done other charity events since. Never anything quite so ambitious.
No, that was the most ambitious.
It almost killed us.
So. People were like stressed out to the point of almost getting into fights.
Yeah. Which, if you don't sleep for that long, that's going to happen.
That's true. So Revolution was a very big part of it. The first game we played together, built our friendship upon that. Also, obviously, became such a massive hit, and so many copies of it that really allowed us to do a wonderful charity event that people were able to walk away with Revolution the game, which was, again, wonderful. So very big thanks to Steve Jackson Games and designer Philip DeBerry.
Yeah. All right. Our number 2 game, we're going to jump forward a little bit here to one of the big releases of its time, but not just because of when it came out, because when it came out, everybody, this is an early Kickstarter mega success, and we had talked about it for months, years before it actually hit the table. This one is Scythe, which, yes, it came out in 2016. It shipped to backers in July of 2016, and then they had it at Gen Con that year, and it was available to everybody by the fall. But we were talking about this game back in 2015 when it was originally on Kickstarter. Chris, you predicted this thing would be a success in January, I believe, of 2015.
Yes.
And look where we are now.
Yeah, we used to do, there was a period of time where we used to do predictions for the new year. And I don't know if you were on that episode, but I was on there with Drew.
Yeah, no, that's how I know it was in 2015, because that was in that stretch of time when I was out, because my daughter was born right at the end of the year. So it's you and Drew, and I remember listening to that, and like, if we go back now, like, just like nailed all of them. So.
I did. I had no information, people. Like I'm pulling things out of left and right. And Drew was great to have on the podcast, because Drew was like, no, that's never going to happen. And I predicted that this would be the biggest non-IP board game to come from Kickstarter. And I think I even kind of hit the number. I don't know if it was that episode. I think maybe even a later episode we talked about it, because Drew was so incensed that I was making that prediction.
Right.
And then I think it came out like almost nearly that number. So that was a big thing for us as far as podcasting was concerned. It's like, what could you do with a podcast? Well, you could say outrageous things and then have people call you on it later. So,
right? Yeah,
that's a thing.
But it was fun. Like, that whole year, we had so many episodes around this game.
Yeah,
like we had that. We had Jamie came on the episode, and
Yes.
we did like a reverse if you like episode.
We did.
Where he kind of talked about games that if you like them, you might also like Scythe.
Yes.
We both backed it ourselves, so we got to talk
did.
about that journey. I was backer number 3 on that campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the game came out in 2016.
Yes.
Big year for games.
Yeah, I remember backing it. I was at a professional conference, and I'm on my phone, and I'm like waiting for the game to come up on Kickstarter to be launched. I'm like, this seems weird, right? This is weird. Everyone's doing this at this professional conference, right? No one's looking at me back in a game on Kickstarter at this moment, right? This is a thing. This is a thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you did it. It's fine.
And again, it was also part of the, how would you say it, like our desire and passion, at least, you know, initially until this day, like to support independent designers, small designers and publishers.
Right.
And Jamie was back in that day before
yeah.
before Scythe came out.
It was just him, right?
Yeah. And he was a genius as far as managing Kickstarter and all that stuff.
Very, very good on the business side. And obviously the game design side. Scythe, one of the best games ever made. This is a funny game for me too, because if we just look at the legacy of it, this game was in almost every list that we had for probably about 2 years, right? We did brackets, we did end of year lists, we did awards.
Yes.
We did like breakdowns. It came out the same year as the next game we're going to talk about, so they kind of went hand in hand for a long time. For me, this game has kind of just trailed off. I think I played it once in the last 7 or 8 years. Like last year, I played it at a game meetup. And that's, you know, there's other versions of that have come out. There's expansions. I've played it digitally plenty. But it just kind of trailed off for me. But like it has that like legacy of like, how many times have we mentioned this game on the podcast?
A lot.
Hundreds.
Yes.
Hundreds of games, Scythe. Even having not played it in a long time. And the number of times I played it in 2016, I could still very clearly see it, and I could sit down and play it right now without looking at the rules because it's Scythe.
Yes. Yeah, and for me, I played Fenris is really what kind of reinvigorated the game for me, and I played through that whole campaign and really enjoyed it. It didn't deliver on everything it promised, but the later multiplayer version beyond that kind of legacy mechanic was fantastic because it gave you which I think we're I don't know if we do this alone, Anthony. Are we the only ones that when a game comes out with an expansion and the expansion's basically like pushes you a little further in the beginning of the game is a prelude? Now it's just a prelude, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we were the ones who first just kept using that term because obviously Terraforming Mars and so forth and so on. So like Fenris has that kind of prelude mechanic in it. So it has a bunch of tiles that will actually randomly bolster your particular faction right at the start. Right. So instead of like Scythe usually takes a couple of rounds before you can build anything of significance. Now it jumps ahead on those like 2 or 3 rounds, which is great. Plus, it one of the challenges that people had with Scythe was some people were like, "Hey, this is a war game." Some people were like, "Hey, this is a Euro game." Some people were like, "I feel like it's both," and they're really annoyed by that. The Fenris expansion allows you to make the victory conditions more either Euro based or Amerithrash kind of based. So you can have the play game style that you really want. If you want your mechs to fight, you could do that. If you want to do more Euro kind of trading the Mediterranean stuff, you could do that.
Right.
So, and plus you get 2 additional factions, which is also very good. And they're very unique. So, that really pushed my Scythe love up to the next level. And it has continued to be up there just again because of that expansion.
Right. All right. I mentioned this next game kind of coming out literally a month later. Although I will say it wasn't really available in wide distribution for another like 6 months because it was so popular right away. Terraforming Mars.
I've heard of it.
Came out in 2016, and we were among the first 200 people to have copies because of some very sneaky maneuvering at the opening of Gen Con in 2016.
That was me. That was me, folks.
So yeah, Terraforming Mars was a game that, and that was at a time when a lot of games were coming out about Mars. Like this was like one of 4, and so it's like, ooh, I like Mars. I'm gonna get all these games, and this was just one of those games, right?
Yes.
I didn't know enough about it. But I was like, yeah, I definitely want that. It looks good. I like
Mm.
Tableau builders. I like Mars, right? Get the game, take it home, play it immediately, and I'm like, holy crap! Not only is it good, but it was doing something different that doesn't seem different now because there's so many games that just do the same thing and somehow keep making the same mistakes, which is weird. And so, like, I liked it so much. It was the first video review that we did, and one of only a handful. But that video ended up on the Cool Stuff website. So, like, actually got a decent number of views and got a lot of positive feedback, which was great. But yeah, Terraforming Mars, I played it probably 20 something times in the couple 3 weeks after I got it because A, it had a great solo mode, and B, everybody I knew back in Pittsburgh wanted to play it because they'd heard it was good and no one could find a copy because Stronghold Games had made almost none.
Yes.
Like, that thing was out of print instantly.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting to have that early. It's one of those things like, it's like reverse FOMO. You're like, I have the thing. Everybody wants it. I'm special. Right. And then we get to talk about it a whole bunch. Obviously, there's a whole legacy that comes after that of, hey, let's release 30 expansions and only 2 of them are good. And
sure.
Things around AI artwork and deck bloat and the quality of the components is crap. But I still have those very positive memories. And it really drove our discussion of the game for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think being in the hobby as we were when we first started, the hobby was very much all about the games that previously came out before the podcast. And I think when games like Terraforming Mars came out, and Scythe too, but Terraforming Mars came out, then it's like, this is the golden age of tabletop gaming. Like, there's something very unique and special about this game. And you were the one, I think, even more than I, had like favored this game. And I was sent on the mission to get the game.
Yep.
From Stephen Bonacore, who looked at me really crazy. I'm like, can I have 2 copies of this game? And the first hour running through every amount of traffic and any number of people, and I believe it certainly did sell out at Gen Con as well.
Yeah, they didn't have very many, so yeah, definitely sold out fast.
And again, it was such a big game, and again, like I was just mentioning, Prelude, the expansion for Terraforming Mars, became kind of like a household name.
Yeah,
around the tabletop industry because like they finally did an expansion that made a lot of sense and really repaired a lot of the challenges and problems with the game. And then it's had a ton of expansions, and we've talked about it a ton.
Yeah, that's really the only good expansion. I mean, there's some that are fine, but there's only the one that's essential and therefore good. But it also has a legacy it's building on. Like, there's a dice game, there's Ares Expedition, there is a literal legacy game coming shortly.
RPG.
There's an RPG.
There's books and
novels. Yeah.
It's
a whole thing, which is funny because there's no characters. Like, building something out of an IP that doesn't have any recognizable characters or anything, it's kind of an interesting idea, but they did it, and it's very successful.
Yeah, it's another game in the zeitgeist where it's just like, Scythe, Terraforming Mars, like those are just kind of like foundational games in the industry.
Yep.
And they still are to this day.
Yeah, and it also remains the Euro I played the most over the course of this podcast in life.
Yeah, 9 years later.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know. It's too long. I'm getting old. All right, next up we got the big one from CMON, or Cool Mini or not at the time. This was the game that they'd done a bunch of Kickstarter campaigns. They'd made a lot of money on Zombicide. But this is the one that I think taught everybody FOMO.
Yes.
Because not that many people actually backed this first campaign for Blood Rage.
Blood Rage.
It launched, I think it made like $800,000, which at the time was a lot. But the game was so well received, so successful, so in demand, and it was CMON, so a lot of that stuff was exclusive, that the secondary market just exploded. And the only thing we'd really seen like that was Arcadia Quest had a couple of things, like the Guildmasters box or whatever, but that was like a small little group, whereas Blood Rage was tens of thousands of people all wanted to get this stuff, and CMON's like, no, we're not printing it again. You should have gotten it before. It sucks to be you. And then I feel like from there, their campaign started making so much more money because people would speculate and they would buy in advance and they would make sure they didn't miss out on things. And now we're where we are, and I think we can point to Blood Rage as a starting point for that.
No, I think it's really the key point, because that 5th player expansion
Yeah.
for Blood Rage was going for like $400 in the secondary market.
Yeah.
And that sounds expensive, and it is, but it was a lot more expensive way back when, about 10 years ago. And just the idea, and people bought it. Like it was sought after by a lot of people. And we even talked about this game prior to the coming out. I think Daniel was the one who had backed it, and then I got a late back on that. I think, did you get a late back on that too?
I played it at we played it at Gen Con. We
Yeah.
played the first round at Gen Con. I was like, this is amazing. I wonder if I could still back it. I can, and I did. Like CMON used to have those late backings through their own little portal.
Well, remember, it was Cool Mini or Not,
right,
back in the day before it became CMON. So even then, they were still like a fledgling company too.
Right. Yeah. And again, they made a bunch of money on some stuff, but they also had a few misses in there too. Like,
sure.
I think
So
Chaos Ball, Dogs of War. Like, there's a lot of games in there before this one came out that were just like, hey, it's got miniatures. You're like, okay. But now they're it's got miniatures and you get to do Rage.
Yeah. And this is another game like Scythe this obviously came before Scythe, that married the Euro elements with the Ameritrash elements in a perfect combination. I think even better than Scythe. This did a better job of putting those two worlds together.
Right.
So it was very much the chocolate and peanut butter put together.
Yeah.
Situation, and it worked perfectly. And it became an I guess a running gag with us too, with Blood Rage.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You have to say you can't say Rage. You have to say Rage.
That's right. You got to say it the Rage way.
Yeah.
So, it was a pivotal moment, and became just a lot of the stuff that we talked about back then, because if you wanted to talk about a game that was both Euro and Ameritrash, which again became most of the games out there after this, then it was first and foremost, you had to talk about it in reference to Blood Rage.
Absolutely. All right. So next up we have a game. It's one of my favorite stories, because this literally just started with a guy being like, guys, I have a really cool idea. I just need like $80 from like 2,000 of you, and we're going to make it happen. Gloomhaven, which was on Kickstarter 2014, 2015. And I know that because the reason I backed it is because Daniel talked about it on the podcast. And those episodes were like 2014, early 2015. Sure. And then I was like, that sounds cool. I'll also back it. Right. And I kind of jumped in, and I think he didn't actually end up backing it, but I did on that first campaign. And I was not going to at all. I'm not a big dungeon crawl guy. I don't really look at those games. But the whole thing about Gloomhaven was like, it's like a dungeon crawl, but with Euro mechanics for the fighting instead of dice. You have cards and all these different things. I'm like, that's cool. I love that idea. And this is another situation like Blood Rage, but even way more than Blood Rage. Where the game came out, earliest reviews, like Tom Vassel's like, it's my new number one game of all time, and people lost their absolute minds. We're like, what? This is the game that dethrones, was it Cosmic Encounter? What's his favorite game for 10 years or something?
Yes.
This is the one that pulls it off. And it finally, it broke through that everybody wanted the game, but again, like only a small number had been backed. The journey from there is ridiculous. Like at this point, Isaac he's a whole company, multiple employees, has run multiple campaigns, some of the biggest board game campaigns in history, like tens of millions of dollars for like Gloomhaven 2nd edition and all the miniatures and Frosthaven. But it all started with like this little tiny thing and one guy tinkering with the game and tweaking it through Kickstarter updates over the course of months. This game was super delayed. And probably not making any money on that first printing, because so much stuff was packed into that box. If you can imagine that the size of that box, which is like $150 now, the first, like if you backed it on the original campaign, it was like $80, with shipping included, I think. So it's just crazy, the fact that it even got made. But here we are, and for a long time, it was the number one game on Board Game Geek. And now there's like 3 versions of it in the top 100.
Was that Origins that you and I met and played?
It was, yeah. So it was early in the development cycle. He'd gotten like some of the early components in, and he sent an email out to backers being like, I'm going to be at Origins. I have some slots. You can sign up and we can play like an intro game and I can teach you how to play. And I was like, sure, that'd be fun. I've never, at this point, having no idea who Isaac was or anything other than the fact that I backed the game and I was waiting for it to come in.
And he wasn't. And again, I want to say this more in the general state of tabletop gaming. He wasn't who he is now.
No, he was literally a dude with a full-time job who took on this hobby that was probably killing him. Right?
Yes. He was a random dude. He wasn't like, now if you see him, he's on a stage with like 500 people surrounding him. Yeah.
He's the storyteller, like featured guest for PAX this year. Like,
yeah,
crazy. Literally just this dude who would write these little essays about his animals and his partner and like his job and his day job and how tired he was. And he's like, oh, and I worked on Gloomhaven tonight. Right. It just was a hobby that turned into like the biggest game of all time for 5 years. But yeah, we got to sit down and play it, which was really cool. I cannot remember their names for these other lovely couple who joined us. But it was just at this table in Origins, and it was just like at the time a nothing burger, right? You're just kind of playing this like prototype copy of a game that hasn't come out yet. I don't even think I was particularly impressed. I know you weren't.
No, you dragged me to do this in the middle of the convention with this random guy, and we grabbed some random table. It wasn't like anything featured or anything like that. It was just like, and why are we here again, man? Like, why are we this?
And then a year later, biggest game of all time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You did it. You did a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That was cool. It's a fun memory.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot, and Gloomhaven has kind of dominated the industry for such a long time, and again, they have been like just like Blood Rage and Terraforming Mars in a lot of ways. Like, if you want to talk about dungeon crawls, you first have to have the caveat like, well, it's like Gloomhaven.
Yeah.
Right. Like, is that because again, Gloomhaven is now the go-to dungeon crawl.
Yeah.
For so many reasons, above and beyond that too. So Isaac was very generous with his time and everything else, and every once in a while I see him, I'm like, hey, and he's like, you? And I'm like, I don't know, do you remember me from like 10 years ago? We played a game together. Right? It was a prototype. You did a thing. And we're like, yeah, right?
Was that fun? You don't remember. It was fun. Well, it wasn't that much fun, but the game turned out okay.
Technically, we were bigger than him for like half a second.
We were. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Hey, we're going to cover your game on our podcast. Oh, interesting.
It's like, wow. Like, yeah, we'll do you a favor this time, buddy. I don't know about next time. And he's like, I am the biggest man on the earth. I'm like, okay.
Maybe that's a common thread for all these, because that was the same thing for like Stonemaier Games for like 5 minutes.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. We're like, look, Jamie, we'll help you out, buddy. We'll help you out here. And yeah. And the same thing with Stronghold with Terraforming Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times.
Oh, good times. So there you go, folks. 5 games. So we do have some honorable mentions, additional games that have fun memories for us. War of the Ring, a game that we absolutely adore but never get to play.
We've tried it many times at many conventions. We've set it up and then have to pack it up and take it home.
Yep. Yeah. And like specifically the two of us. We've played it once. This was my Christmas gift from Chris the year that we met.
Good
and
gift.
It was an amazing game. Yeah. Favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
And we played it once, like a month later, and never since. So that
never again. Never again to be played.
Almost 12 years ago that we played that game.
Jeez.
War of the Ring, the card game. Just and this one in particular, the memory around the tournament that we played in a couple years ago at Gen Con.
We played against Gandalf.
We played against Gandalf. It was in
full
regalia.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't cheat at all. No, they didn't cheat.
No.
Just like they knew the game really well.
Kind of.
We also got to hang out with Ian Brody, who was the designer of the game, and had a nice, lovely chat throughout that as we were waiting our turn on a buy round.
Yes. That was the thing. The tournament was an interesting thing. Ares Games did a good job putting that together.
Yeah.
They just didn't have the numbers to like fill out a tournament. So shenanigans occurred. But talking to the designer, Ian Brody, was fantastic in the highlight of that. But the experience of the gaming in that tournament was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Because I think it's such a great game because it's a 2-player, it's a team game.
Yeah.
And you don't get that a lot in tournaments.
No, it's literally the opposite in terms of player count from like War of the Ring, which is a 2-player game that has a team game version that kind of sucks. Whereas this is a team game version that has a 2-player game version, which just kind of sucks. So like
it was a lot of fun, and it was very intense, and we did really well. But again, bypasses and other tournament kind of rules kind of was a thing, but enjoyed every minute of it. It was tremendous fun.
Yeah. Suburbia, a game we played many, many moons ago. We've told many stories about it, from my giant square box that I've never taken off the shelf and played, to uh, meeting and talking about the game with Ted Alsbach at multiple conventions. We've talked to Ted.
I want to say, I haven't checked it yet. I'm trying to check it now. Suburbia episode 55.
That
'Cause
sounds
I feel
right.
like sounds right, because that was another game that you and I love tremendously, and it was this. It was like, because City Builders were like a dime a dozen, but Suburbia was amazing.
Yeah.
And Suburbia became one of those things that you had to compare every other City Builder Suburbia, and they tried. There was a lot of clones after that that did not do well.
Right.
Yes.
Dominant Species, a game that famously together we never quite finished because we just played it on a lark at
Yes.
DexCon, and it turned out it was a 6-hour game. And we had to eventually, the empty room we were playing in needed to be used for something else.
Boo!
But
Boo!
the famous Cones and Cubes game, the Cones of Dunshire, which
Yeah.
is something that happened in the duration of this podcast. I should mention
Yes.
that Parks and Rec episode, classic. We talked about it on the episode when it came out. So yeah, Dominant Species.
And that's become one of our favorite games. And Dominant Species Marine came out afterwards, and sadly we lost Chad Jensen, but he left a wonderful legacy behind with those two great games.
Absolutely. And last but not least, here I have Twilight Imperium 4, which is like that big Grail game when it was TI3, that where I was like, it's too much, it's too big, we'll never play it. And it just, I randomly decided to wander over and stand in the Fantasy Flight line back in 2017, and then walked away with this big old box.
Hey, buddy, where you going, man? Where you going? You don't want to go in that line, man. Where you going?
I think I'm gonna go stand in line for 2 hours. Is that cool?
to buy what? How much? How much is that game?
It's like, only 150. It's fine. We're at a convention.
I hear that Twilight 3 is like, you have to play it over like 2 days. Like, what the heck, man?
That'll be good. We'll play it at PAX. It'll be great. Story to come.
Did we ever play this together?
Yeah.
Fully? We played a full game?
Oh no, we didn't finish that game.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we'll get into Pizza Guy and
yeah,
what happened there.
Pizzagate.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, so there you go, folks. Some games, but not just games. You had a second tab here. Designers. 5 designers.
Oh, I thought you were still talking about games. Yeah, no, we had 5 games that were legacy games that set the podcast to be the thing it is today. But that's not the only 5. There's also 5 designers and publishers who shaped our discussions in a very powerful and meaningful way. Obviously, there's an endless list of those people because, again, 550 episodes, 12 plus years, we've talked about everybody, everywhere, because this tabletop industry, first and foremost, is about the game designers out there. The small publishers, the small game designers. This is a hobby of designer board games.
Yeah.
So we certainly wanted to talk about the designers that we came across that have had a significant impact on us and the podcast, including all those great publishers.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we have to start off number 1 with the big guy, the man himself, the one whose games I've spent so much money on over the years, Vital Lacerda.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. So generally one of our favorite designers, multiple games in both of our top 100s, big, crunchy, extensive, amazing games. I think we also throw in Ian O'Toole into this bucket.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Ian O'Toole's artwork is like an automatic signifier of quality
yes.
in the game, which is a funny thing. But like, if they're, and I'm assuming, it's probably hard to book him, but if they're going to go to the trouble of booking Ian O'Toole, paying for that artwork, getting that integrated into the gameplay, the game's probably decent, right? You're looking at this as from a publisher's perspective, like, oh, we have a decent game, we should get some good art. Ian O'Toole, right? So Vital Lacerda and Ian O'Toole kind of go together.
Yes.
Peanut Butter and Jelly, along with Eagle Griffin Games, and just we met him at Origins.
We did
back in 2017. Taught us how to play Lisboa. Signed your copy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just have owned or played or both all of the Certus games over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit of a drop off in recent years as like the volume ticked up and the quality ticked down a little, but just still some of the greatest games ever made.
Yeah, it really fits for you and I. It really fits that kind of sweet spot
Yeah.
where it's big, it's lavish, thanks to Ian O'Toole. And again, it's not just lavish because of wonderful artwork, but for brilliant graphic design. Because when you have to play these big, long, crunchy Euro games, if you don't have the thematic artwork and graphic design to make things clear, it falls off like completely, the game.
Yeah.
So it's, as you said, a perfect combination, a perfect pairing, and the games are just fantastic. And also, they were just quality knockouts one after the other from Ian O'Toole and Vital Lacerda. And I remember winning a small discount, but a very significant discount for, I think it was Lisboa back.
It was
back,
Lisboa, yeah, on that little
yeah.
like the shuffleboardy thing.
Yeah, I got a good discount on getting the game because
Yeah.
I got it after the fact. And I was like, that's cool, yeah, because they were expensive. They were $100+ back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it used to be a little cheaper on Kickstarter, and then the retail was crazy, but now it's all crazy. So.
Yeah, and that's back in the day where games were like $60.
Yeah,
and those games were like $100 some odd dollars.
Yeah.
So, and then he, like you said, he taught us the game, which was amazing because it was Ian O'Toole, and I'm sorry, Ian O'Toole, Vital Lacerda. It would be nice if it was Ian O'Toole too, but Vital Lacerda teaching us the game. And we didn't get to finish the game. The couple we were playing with left. Seems to be an ongoing thing with us.
Yeah. What happened with that? That was my birthday too. That was a great birthday present. I'm like, oh, I get to hang out with Vital Lacerda.
I think, and they came down late or something. Like we had an early morning kind of thing, and it was like, it's Vital Lacerda. The funniest, very quick story happens to be that we did love that game, and we also were able to see like its brilliance and then his brilliance in all of his other games. And I remember playing this at so many other places, including my meetups. And I had a friend, Lee, and we played the game, and he disliked it. He disliked it so much that he posted on Board Game Geek. He gave like a 3 and said why he disliked it. And Vital Lacerda responded to his dislike and questioned him about it. And he played it again with me, told me about the story. I'm like, we can't get Vital Lacerda on the podcast, but you, who criticized the heck out of him, you get the response. We love him. You criticized him. And they played again. He was like, no, I don't like this. And went back and told him again. And then him and Vital Lacerda became friends. And they went skiing together. So there you go, people. Be honest with your reviews, because, which we are. We do love his stuff because they're good games. But he even likes the bad reviews. He's a good guy for that.
Yeah. That's great. Our next designer here, who we've talked about ad nauseum, and I'm just realizing, like, if anybody out there has like a BGA drinking game, this is a bad night for you.
Yes,
this is all the things we talk about. But next up we have Stefan Feld, the man himself, the ultra prolific game designer who has released, over the time that we've done this podcast, something like 25 games, 30 games, some ridiculous number. To the point where I was actively collecting all of Stefan Feld's games. I had all of them, and then at a certain point I had to tap out because I was running out of room, and they weren't all amazing, right? This is definitely somebody who's like, I'm just going to release 2 or 3 games a year, and 1 out of every 4 will be a masterpiece, and 2 of those will be okay, and 1 will be kind of bad. And you'll all love me because, hey, a masterpiece every year or 2 is pretty good odds. So we have, going all the way back to like the first Stefan Feld game I played, which is, Castles of Burgundy, all the way up through his current run of just big, sprawling, expensive things. The City series, reinventing a lot of his older games, bigger, more fancier productions than he ever had with any of like the smaller publishers. Castles of Burgundy, big special, fancy edition. Just a nonstop flow of games from Stefan Feld. And the thing I'll always remember, and I always feel bad that you weren't able to be there, but in 2019, Queen Games brought him in to Gen Con, and I got a chance to not just play a game with/near Stefan Feld, but also got to take a picture with him and have a very brief conversation, which was just really fun. And I realized just how tall the man is.
He's very tall.
He's very tall. Yeah,
he's taller than Tom Vassell.
I don't often have to look up at people, and I had to look way up at him.
Because you're a tall guy too,
right?
That's pretty funny, man.
Yeah.
I again, getting into tabletop stuff and initially being really interested in the fantasy games and the sci-fi games and like, oh, Euro games, like, oh, that's cubes. Cubes are for nerds, man. I don't want to play games with cubes. And then like, hey, you should try out some of these Feld games. And Feld really knows what he's talking about, because the fun of Feld, especially those early Felds, were the idea that like point salads. So the point salad games were great because whatever you did, you were scoring points, and that felt really good. And you could build your own paths to victory, which was excellent and was not true for a lot of Euro games back in the day. So his games were so very different from each other in a lot of ways, and very colorful and bright and fun. And they took us out of the kind of boring nature of some of those kind of beige kind of Euro games out there. So lots of love there, of course, and just a lot of fun. And then the City Collection happened, and I get it, because you wanted to revamp his games to make them more modern and to bring the production level up. And you did it through Queen Games, and there was some very questionable decisions on some of the changes to the game design and definitely the artwork. And I backed the first three. No, I backed the first three, the first four. I think it's the first four. Two and then two. And that was like this amazing kind of, love fandom kind of for Stefan Feld, because you got signatures and you guys cards and you got a challenge coin, you got all this kind of cool stuff to go along with it. And it was going to be a numbered collection to go throughout. And then over time, because the games got such poor reception, they kind of dropped away the quality and dropped away the benefits and things you got from that collection. So there's been some highs, ups, and some lows in the Feld world. Yeah. But he's been a fixture in the podcast forever.
Oh, yeah. Another big fixture for us over the years has been Uwe Rosenberg, to the point where we had an episode that was Stefan Feld versus Uwe Rosenberg. And Uwe's thing has long been, I make two games, but I remake them over and over again, right? We have the farming worker placement category of games, and then we have the polyomino category of games, and the little puzzle-ish games. And so we have, Agricola and all of its many spin-offs, that are all using a similar formula and format of worker placement, and then, farming and building up. Agricola, you have Feast for Odin, you have Caverna, you have Newsfjord. Like, there's so many of them, and they all kind of do their own unique thing, and they all have their own fandoms, and we know that because we famously have had this argument for nearly a decade. Agricola versus A Feast for Odin, which you can kind of capture in full in our tier list for Uwe Rosenberg over on YouTube. One of our most popular videos, in which we put both Agricola and A Feast for Odin in the A tier because neither one of us would agree to put either in the S tier. Just classic discussions. And honestly, anytime a new Rosenberg game comes out, I don't always like it, but I'm always excited to play it.
Yes, and again, these have been some of the super highs and super lows. And Agricola was, again, another one of those kind of entry level gateway games for me. Not gateway games so much, but like getting into the real kind of crunchy Euros and playing Agricola, which seems like it's going to be no fun. Absolutely, positively no fun, zero. And because it's misery farming, you have to save your family, you have to feed your family while trying to do other things. And just having moments where, like, being able to feed my family when I didn't think I was going to be able to is amazing. And that kind of classic worker placement game is so, like, that's what Agricola does. And also at the same time having these endless number of cards, which can be very problematic if you have not played those particular decks before. So yeah, and obviously, the farming, which has been his thing, also the polyominoes, his thing. And then obviously the debates we've had, Anthony, throughout the years.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Specifically the one which will never settle. And nope. It'll stand the test of time. And episode 1000 will be like, Agricola's bad. No, Feast for Odin's bad. And all the listeners will be like, shut up.
My Agricola zombies, when it comes out, will take out your Vikings at some point later.
That's true. We're getting big, fancy new editions of both games, so we'll see which one is more ridiculous.
But you're not getting a zombie edition, man.
That is true. Hey, I will play zombie edition. Maybe it's better. I don't know.
Grains.
I love it. All right, next up we have not a new publisher. They've been around for a while, and they've kind of absorbed another company over the years. But Board and Dice has come on strong in the last to 7 years, and it really
Mhm.
started with one game in particular that epitomizes what makes this a publisher that we've always focused it on.
Mhm.
Teotihuacan City of Gods came out in 2018, and this was a game that had a lot of buzz early. That people like Edward over at Heavy Cardboard were talking about it like well before it came out, and I got a chance to play it at Origins that year before it came out, and I was like, actually, this game is really, really good and very exciting. And then they kind of dropped that, hey, it's only $50 and it's going to be discounted at different retailers. You can get this thing for like $35. And it was a big old sprawling euro with a lot going on. And that was when I was like, hey, this company knows what they're doing. These games are quality and they're inexpensive. And they've just kind of knocked that out again and again over the years. They had the whole T series of games. So not just Teotihuacan, but Tekhinu, Tabanusi, several others, Toletum. But in recent years, they've kind of revamped and revitalized even further and are bringing out things like Nucleum and Barcelona and
Mhm.
Windmill Valley, which are just lovely, lovely, beautiful looking games, all for decent prices. So good stuff over the years.
Very good stuff, and very good stuff at very reasonable prices.
Yeah.
And how the industry has kind of radically changed, and they're still kind of reasonable throughout. And they've also really listened to the gamers out there. Remember, they had that survey about how they can make their games better?
Right. Yeah. Like the artwork was getting kind of bland. And then boom, they're like, bam, Barcelona cover. And you're like, whoa, it's so pretty.
Yes. And then I think every other game since then
Yeah.
has had really been revitalized with their artwork. And again, it's not just it's pretty, but it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
When you play it, and that's really great. And I really appreciate the fact that they listen to the gamers out there that love their games. They did a survey. They took the hit. They owned up to it, and now everything's great and better. So
Yeah.
across the board.
Yeah. Just maybe less on the Nucleum expansions because it's starting to look like my clinic shelf. God,
A
like
little bit.
4 boxes up there with one more to come next year. I'm like, that's a lot for Nucleum, but good stuff. Good stuff.
They heard you liked it. That's all I have to say.
Right? Yeah. More? I'm like, sure, more. I'll buy more.
This is what happens when we talk about it. It becomes more.
Yeah, always more.
Mhm.
All right, number 5. Couple games here that kind of epitomize this idea of like the solidly independent studio style approach to gaming, which we see so much less of these days. GMT Games, classic company that has been putting out primarily war games, but a lot of interesting other games as well. We talked about Dominant Species before, and Splotter, a company that puts out one new game every like 5 to 8 years, but that game is always incredibly well developed, deep, tons of development time and research and work goes into it. And once upon a time, these were some of the most expensive games around. Not anymore because everything else is so stupidly expensive.
Sure.
But Food Chain Magnet in particular was kind of a touch point for us, not just discovering Splotter, but discovering like this kind of smaller independent vibe outside of the crowdfunding model.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, they did everything good, fully independent and smart. With how they kind of proceed and how they dealt with gamers and fans out there, and also Splotter and GMT, both companies and both games coming from those companies that seem so daunting,
Right?
So impossible to play, scary even.
Yeah,
and you take the leap of faith a little bit, and we've played them, and they've become some of our favorite games of all time.
Yeah,
and they're still cranking out high quality games that are so directly designer based that you can tell like there's a passion and love behind it. And it's not like, hey, what's going on in the industry? Oh, we need to do zombies? Sure, let's do zombies, or let's do, Mars or something. It's just like what really works for that particular designer, and it shows.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and just a couple honorable mentions here. So some companies and individuals we've worked with a lot just over the years. Jamie, we mentioned Scythe and our time working with Jamie Stegmaier over at Stonemaier Games. A lot of interaction with Jamie early, having him on the podcast, interacting with him at conventions, recording early previews of Scythe expansions. A lot over the years.
Yeah, Eric Lang, obviously all the different, from Blood Rage to Rising Sun to Ankh to just endless number of amazing games across the board. Obviously, we talked about Isaac earlier. The fall, I hate to say it, the fall of Fantasy Flight Games.
Yeah, that was a tough one because, like, we want to keep this positive, but at the same time, that is one of the defining elements of the
It
last
is
12 years of gaming.
very
Is
much so.
like when we got into this, Fantasy Flight was the pinnacle. That was the
Yes.
company. If they released a thing, everybody stopped to look at it.
Yes.
And now it's like, okay, what expansion do you have for Arkham card game now? Like, I don't really
Sure.
care anymore.
Well,
and it's sad.
they had the LCGs, they had the Star Wars IP, they had so many innovative designs, and just they were the cool guys of the industry.
Right, yeah. And they're still around. There's a TI4 expansion coming out in like 3 days. I'm super excited about. But that's like the exception to the rule at this point.
Yes, very much so. And obviously you mentioned Ian O'Toole. Obviously, we've benefited greatly from his art and design, and it's amazing. It really has helped us as gamers kind of focus in on what all the great stuff out there. And also a special shout out to our friend Tim out there, designer from Archmage Games. We got to meet Tim. We talked about Tim a lot on the podcast as well, and also been really great time, brilliant games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so many people out there. Again, this list could be just an hour by itself. So,
absolutely, it could be 600 games. 600 of these. Yeah.
All right. So now we're on to the zero regrets, right?
Yeah, mostly
yes. Regrets. No, so
yeah.
these are fun things that have happened, but obviously they're at the time maybe a little stressful. And that's what makes it fun to think back on them and tell stories about them, because this is
essential to us.
It's part of our identity, but it's also like the stuff that makes gaming so unique, because they're all these social elements, right? These things don't happen if you're sitting at home playing video games with a friend over like a headset. Like, you have to be out in the world. So
yes.
First up, we have the Jungle Murder Hotel. Chris, what was the Jungle Murder Hotel?
The Jungle Murder Hotel was a hotel that we picked when we went to our first major big convention, which was Gen Con. And myself and you and Daniel and Drew and May all went out to the convention at this hotel, in which I took a plane, you took a train, Drew took a bus, and Daniel drove, and that was not planned. I don't know why. I don't know how or why that happened, but everyone came different ways. And it was this once great hotel that had this kind of large open dining area and pool area that had all of these jungle themed fake palm trees and everything that just kind of went with the time, right? There was a time for this. It went away. It was dusty. It was old. It was moldy. It was very The Shining kind of hotel.
Yeah.
And the rooms were very small and tiny and scary. And for some reason, Flying Frog Games was there.
Right.
That was the thing. But I remember, again, this shining-looking hotel with Jack Nicholson waiting for me, because I got to the desk. I had booked the room. It was on my credit card. And they said, "This can't be. You're already in the room." And I'm like, what? How could I already be in the room? I'm the first one. I took a plane. I'm the first person out here. I got here. How could I be in the room? So I went to the room in the scary, haunted kind of hotel, and then found Drew in there. And he is like, "What was the problem, man?" I was like, "Well, I thought you were a person going to kill me in the hotel room for my first Gen Con." And the scary kind of hotel where you're not supposed to be able to use my credit card to check in there. And he's like, "Oh, no, I got your credit card." And I was like, that's bad. It's not a thing you should be doing.
They should ask for ID. What is happening?
Because the hotel looked completely not just bankrupt, but empty. And then again, the day, I think that the morning of Gen Con, Flying Frogs Games was there, which was great. They're great people, and it was fun. It was odd, but it was us, Flying Frog, and like 2 or 3 other random people in this hotel. Little did we know, I guess is the thing. But we survived, or did we?
Well, yeah.
Are we in a picture?
Yeah.
Are we in a picture at that hotel?
Right. Yeah, we've just been talking to nothing for 10 years. Yeah,
I know, it's true.
Oh man, yeah, that was
purgatory. No,
oh no,
it's the plot twist here.
Oh man, yeah, Gen Con's fun.
Yes.
Which actually we should mention the other shenanigans that we've been through at Gen Con, because that same Gen Con.
Yes, our number 2 here.
Yeah, we were part of the Dice Tower Network at the time, so we were very excited to be included in all of that. So
First time meeting everybody.
first time meeting everybody. We took a shift at the booth. There's
did?
photos on our Facebook page. You can see those of us at the Dice Tower booth back in the day.
This is way back when.
Way back in the day. Old logos for everybody, including us. We went to dinner at a spaghetti-based factory of some kind.
as you do. That's how you make
as
the
one
spaghetti.
does. With the Dice Tower crew and a handful of other just random podcasts like our own. Where the Dice Tower crew was very disinterested in having conversations with any of us. So
it was an interesting thing because Tom Vessel had a podcast network of different podcasts, and then he had his inner crowd of people for the Dice Tower, and I'm sure he felt, I don't know, the wave of people trying to come at him or talk to him or whatever. So it was a very odd dinner at the Spaghetti Factory.
Yeah,
because he was like, do I know you? You're sitting next to me. What's going on here?
Right.
We're part of the top Dice Tower, sir. You know.
Yeah.
And we also did an event. He had a big event, which he invited again. So gracious to invite all the different podcasts that were part of the network. And we met him. Great picture with the four of us there. And he was like, look, I don't know who you guys are. You guys are anonymous. If you go up there on stage, don't do anything crazy. I'm telling you right now, don't do something crazy. Now, to be fair, we had something crazy planned. It wasn't super crazy. It was just kind of fun crazy. And we were going to wear paper bags over. I had this idea, just paper bags overhead, because we're board gamers anonymous. So we'll wear these paper bags because, again, back in the day, there was a comedian, and this comedian was the anonymous comic or something. And his whole thing, his whole shtick was this paper bag over his head. So I thought we put our paper bags over our heads. We walk on the stage. Tom would be like, what? And he'd be like, yeah, we're Board Gamers Anonymous. We want to stay anonymous. We're afraid to be around people and stuff like that. He's like, no. And then Tom would probably say something like, that's crazy. That's ridiculous. Take off those bags. And, you're among friends. And then, of course, underneath there would be a smaller bag underneath there, but with smiley faces on those bags. So that was the plan. That was the idea. But then Tom is very big and scary, and we did not want to mess or upset Tom Vessel.
Yeah, it's always hard because he'd always tell you to do or not do things, and he would say it in such a serious, direct way.
Yeah.
And he's a large man, and he has many children, and he's a preacher, so I'm like,
yes,
you seem scary.
And a math teacher.
And a math teacher. I'm like, this is not a man who wants to be messed with.
Yes.
But then sometimes he is inviting mischief, and you just can't tell.
Yes.
So
it's really true. It's really true. It's a really fun. It was a really fun, amazing thing, and I think it's also on YouTube on his channel somewhere that we were recorded.
Yeah,
doing our presentation up there. Yes,
2015, so 10 years ago.
Whoa!
Yeah, I know it's been a while.
That was a thing.
Yeah, and then the other thing from Gen Con, this is the last thing from Gen Con, is the handful of years that we were permitted and encouraged to wake up at 4:00 in the morning and go wait in line for a ticket that would allow us to enter the exhibition hall 1 hour early.
Yes.
Which sounds like, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, there are 50,000 people trying to get in that room. And if you are one of like 1,200 who gets to go in there early, not only from a media perspective, that's amazing because we don't get that early access anywhere, really.
No.
So we could talk to people, say hi, take photos before it gets really crowded.
Yes.
But also not have to stand in that crazy crowd and get crushed when you're trying to get in and purchase something that you're looking for. So
yes,
I did that every year that I could do that, and I think starting the second year you joined me.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to, because if you have a press pass, you could get in the line early. They gave out every year at a decreasing number of those. I think the first year was like 400, and then it was 3 something, and then 200, and they stopped doing it.
Yeah, there was a limited number that you could get. I think that first year was probably only 1, and I think you got it.
Yeah,
but again, it wasn't like, hey, your media, you can come in early. It's, hey, your media, we have a handful of passes, of which number we will not tell you.
Right.
If you don't show up early enough to get the passes, you don't get in.
Right.
So 4 a.m. was the requirement, and some people did not get passes because people showed up a little bit later than that. Yeah. And then you still had to wait through a long line because I think the VIPs had the same access period.
Right. Yeah, and you had to get in the VAG line. So it was like the way it would go is you get up early, you get in that line. They open up at like 5:30, I think. Yeah. It's 5:30 or 6, and then you get those tickets, and then you go off and do whatever, get breakfast, do whatever, take a nap, find coffee, and then you come back and you get in the early access line, which you really wanted to be in by 9.
Yeah.
And then they opened up at 10.
Sure.
No, you want to be in it by 8 because they opened it at 9. Full access for everybody else was at 10. So it was like this very long, like 6-hour morning in which you're really just standing in lines.
It was a very elaborate process, but without which we would not have gotten games to review for the podcast.
Sure.
And we would not have gotten pictures for the podcast. Because if you go even looking way back when, all those years, like I had 100,000 different pictures. You can't get that when there's 50,000 people in the way.
No.
So we appreciated it. I'm sorry that it disappeared because that was very helpful for media people there.
Right.
So.
All right. So we mentioned, we teased a little bit. So we have one more story here from a convention, which is a fun one. The TI4 pizza guy.
Yes. The TI4 pizza guy was PAX Unplugged, and TI4 is hard to get to the table, but we attempted it at our hotel lobby.
Yep.
Me, you, our friend Eddie, and our friend Dave were going to play TI4.
About 30 people walked by and said, "What the heck are you doing? You are crazy." Yeah.
But we soldiered on nonetheless.
We did.
And it was getting later, and certain people were getting drunker.
Yep.
And the game gets very tense. And there was other tables where other things were happening. And there was one very loud guy who kept bumping into our friend Dave and being very loud about it. And Dave very calmly turned around, just like kind of like brushed him off a couple of times. And the guy who was probably very drunk and very loud was like, "Hey, you want pizza? I'm sorry, I'll give you pizza." And it became Pizzagate. It became a pizza thing where he just kept coming back and back to the point where we couldn't end up finishing the game, sadly.
Yeah, it really dragged down, and Dave in particular was just like unable to focus and take his turn because he was so distracted by this pizza guy, and he really wanted him to stop, but he didn't want to get mad, but he was clearly very angry. And it was like 3 a.m. we threw in the towel. So having played that game a bunch now, I know that we were within the last round, but a round of that game can take an hour and a half. So
sure,
it doesn't mean we were almost done. But it was still fun. It was fun to get that game, wait in line for so long for it, and then get it to the table just a couple months later. Because I didn't get that played again for like a year and a half after that.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, getting the games to the table, the big ones, attempting to play the games, going through the games, again, it's not about the victory conditions. It's about the people around the table and the fun that you have.
Yeah.
And when it's a convention scene, it's always chaotic, it's always odd, it's always challenging. But that lends itself to some of the fun of it, right? Like you're almost doing a dangerous act by even trying to play a game in those kind of situations. Like you're playing at home, it's quiet, it's like, oh, that's fine, we played that game. But if you're playing that game with all that energy around you, it really elevates it to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those kind of experiences at the game table, at the conventions, really just gigantic. We talked about the 25-hour charity game event. Playing games in that kind of condition is unique and really kind of put us in that kind of different vibe. So a lot of ways to play games, a lot of ways to play games with great people, and 550 episodes over 12 plus years of great games and great gamers, publishers, designers, artists, writers, artisans, so many other just names and people out there. So much that we can't name, but we will. We'll name more of them in a future episode.
Yeah.
All right, until next time, this is Chris.
Hey, this is Anthony.
And we'll save you all a seat at the table. Take care, everybody.
Hey there, Hugh from Moderation here. If you like today's show, then why not have a listen to Why We Roll, the dedicated TTRPG design podcast. It's hosted by Wythe and Chris, two professional TTRPG designers, and it's all about talking to the people that make our favourite games in the tabletop world and understanding what goes into that decision-making process, how you build something that's not just fun to play, but fun to experience. And we're not talking about how we roll, but learning why exactly we make those decisions. Check it out on our website at podderation.com.